Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new, exciting episode of Video Ditch. Today, we are joined by two people you will never believe in a million years agreed to come on the show. It is the core team members creating a remake of a game that even if you don't know about it, you do know about it because it's influenced many, many games that have been in the zeitgeist for the last decade. It has a ripple effect that is still reverberating and affecting everything you love and consume to this day if you are a listener of the show. And that is Off, the RPG by Mortis Ghost. And with me today is Ryan Alyea and Jack Murphy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
You're right. It was really tight getting you in, but my secretary moved some things around and glad we could make this work.
I know, my heart rate, man. It was like, what's high? Is that like 120, 180? It was a mile a minute for sure.
Yeah.
But, I'm very, very glad to have you guys both on the show.
Yeah, no, it was great running into you at PAX East this year and then again at the Mix.
Yes, it was great.
Yeah. You're wearing the same sweater from the Mix, I think, right?
I am, yeah. I did wash it in between, though, so don't worry.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, good. Glad to know.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, like, FANGAMER Earthbound. How can I let people know that I'm a really cool guy with good taste?
Mm-hmm.
So it just made sense. But yeah, we met at PAX. We met at the Mix. The three of us are all very close personal friends now. We all get along. We laugh at each other's jokes. We have a great relationship. Jake's a bit of an outsider, but I can vouch for him. He's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's get into it. How's everyone doing today? Doing all right? Happy? Excited?
Yeah, absolutely excited. We've been getting a lot of feedback from reviews. We've been getting a lot of interesting things coming out. As of recording, the game will be coming out in 6 days. So we're very excited for everyone to be able to have a chance to be able to play the game.
Yeah, things have been pretty busy, obviously, but we are keeping our heads over water and just kind of taking this like nice little moment of respite on the weekend to catch our breath. We recently submitted our last little submission for Nintendo, and we just have the strip ahead of us for the Steam launch. That's what we're going to be focusing on next week. So I'm just kind of resting up, getting my energy as high as I can to go into next week strong.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. And Jake, how are you doing? Big smile on your face, I see.
Oh yeah. Still breathing.
Yeah. Always.
In there right now.
For me, very huge for me. I was thinking before this, I was telling my wife, like, I've talked to these guys. We get along. We have a rapport. We make jokes. I'm not going to be nervous, but I'm going to be honest with you. This is a little bit, pulse pounding stuff. Being able to talk with the people responsible for remaking a game I played so long ago has such a massive impact on my life. It's really exciting. It's fantastic.
Say, like, where does Off rank in your sort of foundational games for you?
I'd say, in terms of like free games that I found and played that actually had an impact, it's like Off and Cave Story are the two I would say that are the most like, wow, I can't believe that someone made this. Because Off for the storytelling ability and the music, and Cave Story also for the storytelling ability and the music, but also gameplay, everything. But there were just some things that it kind of like makes you realize, like, wow, one person can really make something so incredible, or two people, I suppose. It's Mortis Ghost and alias Conrad Kova, but still, it's like it changes your whole perception of what a game development team or what goes into making a game, what it can be, and what one person can achieve. It's really amazing stuff, really inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
And from that, moving on, sort of similar with you guys, what exactly sparked the interest in video games as a whole in your youth? What was the sort of seed planted when you were a young man that made you hopelessly addicted to gaming?
I mean, for myself, like, I'm old enough that like I played like the original Mario, the original Zelda just as a kid on the NES because that was my era. And I just loved those games growing up and just kind of kept on going. But my big love, of course, was when I got into Earthbound, right? And that was a game that was a lot more like, hey, because back then your RPGs were like kings and queens and wizards or the occasional sci-fi. You didn't really have like, oh, it's just an RPG of a kid just doing things with the baseball bat, So it's something that was, you didn't see that back then, right? As games were starting to branch out to many different genres besides the traditional ones, right? So, that was one that really gripped me.
Yeah, I think my introduction to video games was at my neighbor's house. I grew up in Indiana, like the suburbs of Indianapolis, and I had a neighbor's house that I used to call my vacation house when I was 4 years old, pretty presumptuous for a little kid. But They always had like the fruit roll-ups, the gushers, the real soda, whereas my parents would only buy the diet stuff.
Yeah, nasty, healthy crap. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And they also had an NES. And yeah, I think my earliest memories of video games was munching on like cheese puffs and like pointing the zapper gun right against the CRT. So it was like dunk, dunk, and just blasting away. And yeah, the original Mario. And then I still remember the afternoon my dad came home with a Super Nintendo. And yeah, that changed everything. And like Ryan talked about, Earthbound was just so revolutionary and also just really put a lot of heart into video games, because there's always that abstraction of, a dragon's never going to burst into my room and I need to like kill it with a sword or something.
Right.
But like Earthbound kind of, I remember me and my brother and sister would like sit in the backyard with the player's guide and daydream about like the road trip we would take to all the different towns. And it felt like an adventure that we could go on. And yeah, I think that's kind of some of the more special, like early memories of video games.
Yeah, something that really changed what an RPG could be, opened those doors. As fun as Dragon Quest is, and as wonderful as it is, Earthbound was the one that, for a lot of people, myself included, makes you realize that it can be something so much crazier and wilder. I know you guys were both from FANGAMER. Were you on Starman.net at all when you were younger? Were you posting
absolutely.
on there? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, myself, I was posting around the 1999, 2000 era. I think it was around 2001 when I became a staffer, and it was around like 2003-ish when I like was involved in the main website programming, and 2007 when I made the custom forum that Starman.net still uses to this day.
Okay, so Starman.net was kind of like the through line to FANGAMER existing in a way.
Well, Starman.net FANGAMER came from Starman.net, right? So so it was a complete through line for me entirely. So I came, technically speaking, I could say that I've been working in the industry for 25 years, if you want to include all my time that I did on Starman.net.
Sure. Yeah, campaigning, sending the petition to Reggie, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember.
Yeah, important work.
It was.
It's true. Yeah, it's nice to see that community from so long ago that I used to go on to just get like sound effects of like what critical hits or Pokey getting hit by his parents or something, and download that just to have it on my phone. Has grown to something so spectacular. It's great.
Yeah. I was a bit of a lurker on Starman.net. I was raised to, never say my real name on the internet. Internet's full of malicious strangers, that sort of thing. But then I found Starman, and it was just sort of like, that was my first, I guess, little hint that like, maybe that's all BS. Maybe there are some good people on the internet, but still I was a little cautious. So I didn't really post on there too much. And I said, as I mentioned, I grew up in Indianapolis, and I didn't know it, but Reedman, the founder of Starman.net, grew up 1 hour away from me in Kokomo. And I didn't know that until I moved away in Washington State. I was on Starman.net, and I saw Reed make a log about the very first Starman.net convention, where it was just him and I think 3 other people just hanging out on his...
There was the first one, and then there was the second one where I was present. So that's where a whole bunch more people came in. So the Starman.net conventions, if you will, which was just like staffer meetup essentially, was a really big deal for us, like kind of how we solidified ourselves as a group. This was like in 2001, by the way. I drove cross country with my mother to go meet Reed because she didn't trust me meeting a guy off the internet.
To meet these Earthbound heads.
Exactly.
So Ryan, was your first convention the second one?
Mine was the second one. The first one was just like, I think just Reed, Camille, and Steve. So it wasn't that many people. So
yeah, and they just walked around a graveyard, and like that was about it.
That was about it. It was the second one that took place at the music festival. So
it's
that's
just like Reed.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think Reed grew up across the street from like a cemetery, and one of his favorite stories was how him and his friends would just like rest their heads on tombstones to try and freak out passing cars, make them think that they're just decapitated heads on there. So
put a bunch of flour on your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, but talking about just going back to like the root of Starman.net. Yeah, I think I really got my first. I feel like my life has kind of been like crisscrossing with Starman.net for almost my entire life. Because again, first off, I grew up right next to Reed, and I moved away right before the first Starman.net convention happened. And then in 2004, I think I went to go visit my grandparents with my family in Tucson, Arizona. And it was like one of the most boring weekends of my entire life. I just sat on a couch and played video poker on a Tiger handheld all weekend.
When you were in Tucson, were you like, this is nothing like the game. This is such a scam.
Yeah, exactly. I had my hopes up, and then it was just, it was hot, it was dry, and like I said, there was nothing to do but just play video poker all weekend. So when we left, I was like, well, see you never, Tucson. And I left. Little did I know that at around that time, Reed had just moved there, and 8 years later, I'd be moving there permanently. So
yeah, guys just barely
life works in funny ways like that.
Narrowly dodging each other until it converges. So was Starman.net also kind of the start of your history with game development as well? Did you have any basis in using like PK Hack or anything like that?
So I was one of the major contributors to PK Hack. So I made like all the different, like some of the different pieces and parts of that. So mostly was Tomato and Jeffman, but I mostly like helped out on the side. And then I made some of the more popular hacks. Like I think the one I was most known for was like a combat. Like it was kind of like a combat roguelike type of thing that people had enjoyed.
Yeah, we had one of our previous guests also. You probably know him as Mr. Tenda. He made Starstruck. Yeah, he was mentioning he also was working on the hacking tools. So it's nice to see that also the originator and the successor, I guess.
Yeah, so that's another. Oh man, that's a name I've not heard in a very long time.
Oh yeah, Star Trek is great, by the way.
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah. I was dabbling in game design long before, I guess, anything with Starman.net. Like I grew up with RPG Maker, I think. Well, no, actually, Duke Nukem, I think 3D was my first real foray into game development, like just making levels for Duke Nukem. But then RPG Maker came out, and that kind of first introduced me to the idea of scripts and like logic procession and stuff like that. And around the time I really started getting active in Starman.net again was during their fun fests. I think that's what they're called, right? Not fan fests.
We call them fan fests and fun fests. It depends on what era it is. It was originally called the Fun Fest, and then in the Fangamer era, it was called Fan Fests.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, around that time, I was doing a lot of mods for Half-Life games. So I was like making maps, custom models, textures, that sort of thing. And Gary's mod specifically, I think, was kind of my haunting ground. And for some of the fan fests, I would get active on the Starman.net forums and post maps of like if we were playing Chrono Trigger, I did a Millennial Fair map. Nice. I did a New Pork City map for Mother 3 and stuff like that. So yeah, if you've been on Gary's mod around 2008, you may have played .NET's role in my game dev journey. I think is just kind of encouraging me to not just make some throwaway joke map, but actually dedicate months of my time on a big project and be proud of what I make. So
yeah,
I thank really them for that.
Yeah, fantastic. So that's great starting points. I've noticed that a lot of people we've had on, the starting point is usually like RPG Maker or an existing game modifying that. So, and I know you mentioned Fan Fest, Fun Fest, and the Starman.net conventions. Is that kind of what led into Camp Fangamer?
Yeah, Camp Fangamer was a lot of it was Jazzy. So that was somebody else within the company. But the thing about Camp Fangamer was that it was kind of a nexus for a lot of the like random elements within the company, especially within like all these sorts of like small ideas. And there are even like hints of camp like all throughout the office. So in one camp we had the Gamer Blood, so that's an ongoing reference within Fangamer. There's also we do have a mascot, Fang, that did not come from Camp Fangamer, but if you look, there's a lot of references to Camp Fangamer and a lot of like history within the company. So there's a lot of like in jokes and stuff that came from camp. Right. And really was like an idea of like, oh, well, we can do weird things other than just sell merchandise. So, yeah, in a way.
Right. And that's also the genesis of Mayonnaise Hole.
Mayonnaise Hole came from PAX East a long time ago. So Mayonnaise Hole, okay, we should probably, Jack, do you want to introduce Mayonnaise Hole to the audience here?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you. Yeah, actually, our first time meeting was, like I mentioned, PAX East. That was the 10-year anniversary of Mayonnaise Hole. It was 2015. It was I think at the end of the weekend. A lot of the crew was just kind of twiddling their thumbs because we had gotten to the point where we had pretty much broken down and packed up all the booth, but for whatever reason, I can't remember, we were waiting on something. Something was running behind and we couldn't all leave for our hotel rooms until this final step happened. And a friend of Fangamer, I believe is Mike Choi, and one of our designers, Tony Kuchar, were just messing around, just throwing stuff, like trying to like make baskets, like tossing junk at like this little pole that was used to hold up curtain rods on the showroom floor. And yeah, I'll save you some time. But basically, it all culminated in them finding a stick, tying a packet of Hellmann's mayonnaise to it, and then just trying to see how far away they could stand away from the pipe and still try and lower the packet into the pipe without falling over. It got even more intense where we created a system called anchors where someone holds the other person so that way they can lean at, unnatural angles and stand even further away. I think like we're up to like almost like 10 feet distance from the hole. And anyway, it started creating a crowd where as everyone was waiting to finish up packing for PAX, eventually all the FANGAMER crew started joining in and thinking of like new rules and ways you can make it more exciting. And then eventually other crews from other tables, like I believe Tiny Build's crew was coming over and joining us. And then eventually security, like the convention center security were like chanting and like cheering us on and everything. And I believe our first designer, John Kay, I think was the historic first official mayonnaise hole to be sunk. And that was recorded on phones, 3DS cameras. And it sort of, grew into a company tradition, like during Camp FANGAMER, where we talked about, I think 2015. Wait, no, I think it was 2016. I think we had our first mayonnaise hole game on stream. And I think it was at the top of the Twitch page for a little while. I remember like people freaking out being like, mayonnaise holes at front page Twitch and stuff like that, where people were using, we have a mannequin in the office that Jazzy dressed up to look like Lucas from Mother 3. And we taped the stick to Lucas's arm. So someone's holding Lucas, this rigid mannequin by the feet, holding him 6 feet out. So yeah, it was ridiculous, but it's been a sort of company tradition ever since then.
Yeah. And you knew you had a hit on your hands, essentially. It was a new stream sport.
Yeah. I think the HTC Vive came out in 2016. Like commercial VR came out the year after Mayonnaise Hole. So it was kind of hot on our minds. And I remember just like being in the mailroom, packing t-shirts, packing orders. And we would just stand around the mailroom table and for like a 6-hour shift, just brainstorm all the different crazy ways you could play Mayonnaise Hole in VR. It's like, what if you did it in like a Michael Bay chase scene where you're leaning out the window of a car trying to sink a mayonnaise hole on another car, like the hole is on the hood of another car. And like, what if it was like a kaiju where instead of a mayonnaise packet, it's a mayonnaise truck and you're this giant monster. And instead of a pipe, you're trying to sink it into a giant volcano, stuff like that. So we were just going overboard on all the different things that like the way virtual reality would allow you to play mayonnaise in different ways that you never thought could be possible. And and then I guess that kind of spurred us to actually give it a shot.
Right. And so
Mayonnaise Hole can't be really played with like,
was it the first
can't be played with like a keyboard and mouse?
Was it the first attempt at making a game within FANGAMER? No, it's all right. I think we're talking about the same thing anyway.
Actually, the first attempt to make a game would actually be Sweet 33. So that was kind of like a dating sim based off of the employees back at the time, because we were the name was a pun on The Office. So SWEET 33 because we were at SUITE 33 at the time.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you were there for that. Where like I think we just went to EG's, right?
Yeah,
and Jazzy I think was also was like pioneering a lot of the ideas, and Mado and like Poe and Mado were there, and Mado. Are you familiar with Poe and Mado?
Mado, yes.
Specifically, Mado.
Yeah. So Mado ended up making. Yeah.
Okay.
So Mado ended up making that, and we just ended up releasing it as just kind of like a random free thing. And I'm not sure how well, like Jack, how do you think like the reception was?
Oh boy, I mean, it was a complete vanity project.
Yeah,
like, we made it for us. It's like it's a dating sim. We made a dating sim with just all of our friends. So it's not very serious. I'm pretty sure all the endings, like seducing anyone in the game, gets you a bad ending. I'm pretty sure the player dies.
No, there was a good ending, and there was one good ending, and that was Ruby the dog.
Yeah. If you date Reed's dog, then you can get a good ending. But all the other ones end in tragedy for the player.
Good. As it should.
See. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know about it. Like my avatar that I use on like social media, Steam, it's still my NPC sprite from Sweet 33. and I don't think anyone's ever clocked it. No one's ever been like, "Oh crap, I remember that." Like, I know where that's from. So yeah, I think it's really like flown under the radar and been completely forgot about. But no, it has an itch page and everything. So check it out if you haven't yet. It's fun. I mean, it's a funny, goofy little thing.
Yeah, everyone play Sweet 33 and post in your comments who you got killed by brutally at the end, which route you ended with.
Mm-hmm.
So that was essentially the first foray into gaming with FANGAMER. Was that kind of also what led you guys to think, well, we got some talent on our hands. Maybe we can do something a bit more.
Maybe the story for Off in particular is, kind of where things got like a bit more like that was more when I got involved, and then that's when like more like getting really serious about thinking about doing these sort of things.
Yeah, from what I understand, like Off was in development. Like Off could be traced back a long time ago.
So yeah, I guess we can just go about the story. Is that like when it originally started, and I could entirely be wrong about this, but I'm pretty certain what happened was that Toby introduced FANGAMER to Mortis, wanting to do merchandise and other small bits just to be able to help, support him. Like Mortis had made a free game and just like, hey, just be able to support him. And somehow, we all got together and decided like, what if we actually like remade the game for Switch? Wouldn't that be so cool? And then we added Steam and we redid the entire combat and we added new bosses and things just kind of went out of hand from there.
Yeah, scope creep is a common thing in game design, and this was our first foray into it, so we definitely fell victim to that. But I think it's all for the best.
So was the initial idea just the like off merchandise like you guys have now, like the jerseys and the judge?
Yeah.
Plushes?
So that was the original pitch, but it was like, well, why don't we just port the game?
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that are they were like, okay, let's give it a good try, right? Why not? We have experience on this. We have a team that can be able to do something, so why not?
Okay, and then the assembling of the team. I understand that there's the core team, but with all the musicians and everything, was that something you had to search people out? Were people like actively trying to get in on the off team, or how is it developed?
Let me search through here. I have the answer to that question. So when it came to that, like by far, like we were devastated that we couldn't get the original soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for a myriad of reasons. And if you want to see something, fans have posted the ACC statement, and just want to refer you to that if you have any questions. But ultimately, like, what do you do, right? And so really what happened was that we just asked like a bunch of our friends who were really fans of Off, including Toby, Night Margin, Mortis asked his friend Morose to come onto the project. So really it was a matter of just like us finding like, hey, who are some of the people that we know that can really like help bring, new music to it. And at the time we were like, well, okay, well, what do we do? Do we want something close to the original, or do we want something different? And Mortis made the call to be like, well, let's try something different, right? We have a chance to do something new. Let's try something new, right? So that was Mortis's idea to really like try like new stuff, essentially.
Okay. Yeah, Ryan, I understand you're the director, but the final say on everything creatively changes, anything like that. That would all go through the Mortis Ghost?
Correct, exactly, right? So I'm, in charge of like making sure the game gets done on time, marketing, that sort of thing. But like when it comes to any creative decision in the game, ultimately it's signed off by Mortis if it wasn't created by him in the first place.
Perfect. Okay. And then, so what exactly, throughout the development of Off, what would you say have been the main struggles and triumphs you've experienced?
Well, as we said, the soundtrack has been an interesting situation. So one of the struggles was Deden's song. So it came out in the demo, and the entire development team thought it was like a really touching homage to like the full cycle of like Off to Undertale back to Off. And we thought it was just a wonderful sort of like, full circle final touch. And we would be like, okay, we're done with Zone 1, and then we're going to go seriously and just focus entirely on Off only for Zones 2 and beyond. The demo ended with the song because we were like, well, just do all of Zone 1. And so we had received a pretty big backlash to the music that we weren't really expecting, right? because we were living within our own, because we're just focused entirely upon the game. We don't have being able to come up for air is rare. And so being able to do that, it's like, well, okay. Needless to say, we have replaced the song with something more fitting for the new soundtrack, and we hope everyone enjoys the new version of the song.
Yes, this time it's just Megalovania with no changes. Yeah, no, I did see that. I saw people also being like, how dare they replace the Dopefish with Toby's dog? He's taking over the game.
So that one, I know about the history of Dopefish. Like I played Commander Keen and all that other stuff way back in the day.
Yeah, same here.
I know about all that. Unfortunately, with a project, with like this one, we're now at 150,000 wish lists that we had just recently announced. With a very large project, you get a lot of eyeballs on it, especially for a commercial project. So it's one thing if it's like a free download and nobody's really making any money. It's another thing when you make something available for sale. And so there's just a lot of risk factors when it comes to copyright. And yeah, it might be allowable now, but with, all the people that are buying up properties these days, you never know what lawyer you're going to go up against, in a year, 5 years from now. So, unfortunately, it was a case where we had to change it. Now, when it comes to Toby's involvement, I literally just put on a call and said, "Hey, I need to change this. Who's willing to change it?" And yeah,
I believe it was Mortis's idea to make it an annoying dog.
Yeah, I believe so too. So, like, we put on a call and said, "Hey, what do we do about here?" And so Mortis said, "Change it."
All right. So, and what the problem with it? Take it up with the big man himself.
Exactly right. Yeah. So that's staying in the full version of the game because that was Mortis's call. So if you have any questions about that, you can find some way to get in contact with Mortis,
or have a lengthy discussion with the Apogee license holders or something.
Right. Whatever private equity now owns that. Right.
Exactly.
I don't know. So it's just one of those. Just like I don't want to have any lawyer come at me, or Mortis for that matter. This entire project was entirely for Mortis's benefit. So the last thing we want to do is have it be bogged down in stupid legal stuff.
Exactly.
Right? For better or worse, again, a lot of people would be like, the history of Easter eggs and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, in the current legal climate, funds not allowed, according to some lawyers.
It's true. And, for anyone who is really that torn up, the fact of the matter is the original version of Off is still very playable.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We're doing nothing to stop anybody to do the original. The original is still there. We're providing this game as an option to people who want to play the game on Switch, have an updated version of it. But if you want to play the original, it's still there. It's still out there. You can still play it.
Exactly.
And this might be a good segue, probably shouldn't spend a whole lot of time talking about, but it's coming out on Steam, PC. There's a lot of tricks you can do with PC games.
If it's a good setting,
make them just the way you like them. So,
and as opposed to the demo, not going to say much of anything, but you may find a file literally named music this time around. Not saying anything more, but there is a file called music. That's a very large file in the directory of files within the game. So, if you're looking for something, go look for that.
Yeah.
So clip that, please. Okay.
Do what you may. Yeah. Yeah. Also, search for data miners. Search the code for music map. Keyword music map.
Well, you don't even need to do the music map. You can just look at the music. You can just look at the music file.
Everything is presented to you. If it's that much of a deal breaker to have alternate music, to just pour it in the entire Deltarune soundtrack if you really want to.
But please give the new music a fair shake.
Yeah.
Please do.
There was a moment where I was cooking in the kitchen the other night, and I had just the algorithm was just playing through music, and the battle theme came on, and I smiled to myself, but then I also kind of I shook my head and I went, man, Pepper Steak is such a classic track. Like, what were we it would have been impossible to replace it. Like, this is so good. And I listened to it for about 15 seconds before I realized it wasn't Pepper Steak. It was our version. And I was like, oh, geez. Like, I have mentally associated this music with the game so much that, like, when I'm play testing and I go through one door into another zone, I can start hearing the music for the area in my head before getting there. So again, I feel like, the artists who worked on the new soundtrack put a lot of heart and soul into it. And I mean, the original soundtrack's always going to be there and always be, you know, irreplaceable and special. But yeah, I think, like I said, just give the new soundtrack a shot. I hope you'll like it.
I think it's fitting. I think it makes sense as well. From what I've seen of the game, the added content, the new stuff from Mortis, it does also reflect, I think, this new generation of people who have been inspired by Off and touched by Off, and people who Mortis has personally approved for this new content and these new things that he's added. So I think it's very worthwhile to listen to these new songs. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice to not do that.
Absolutely. And, you know, as I mentioned before, you know, some people were, I'm not going to say much of anything other than the fact that if you look at our YouTube channel, you'll see that the battle music says Zone 1 on it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, some people are saying that like, oh, the music's a little too upbeat. Just keep playing. Keep playing.
All right. Perfect. Okay. And what are the biggest triumphs that come from Off? Not just to focus on the dope fish and the Dodon controversy.
Yeah. The thing that I'm most proud of is the new combat system. Now, I know that there are still like the small updates we had made to the combat system. You know, we are still remaining true to like the original game. So it's still an ATB based system. It still uses something pretty close to the original because we really wanted to go for that original feel. So if somebody was expecting like grand, groundbreaking new RPG combat, you know, we're still focusing on something that was very close to the original and still has like that same feel of the original, right? So, you know, we're not going to go and do like crazy new features, but we do have a couple of features that I think that is really interesting that we still want to bring to the space. One of which, and it's something I've never actually seen in a RPG style game, at least one that I'm aware of, is critical hits are telegraphed in advance. So if you notice, you'll see that the meter starts spiking, both you and the enemy side start spiking. That means that it is a critical hit. And not only like normal attacks and, you know, your skill based numbers attacks are still like affected by it. You certainly do more damage, but also your defense does do that. Items also has an effect, and things like the wide angle that tells you all about the enemy also has an effect. So everything has an effect with that critical system, as well as the fact that your meter is now twice as fast, so you get your turn like quicker too, right? You know, we were joking one day, like we were just like, well, what else can we do to add to the system? Because we had, you know, implemented more or less the original combat, and we're like, okay, so what can we do to add to this? And somebody, and I don't have even the notes, and so we just decided as a team, just like, well, what if critical hits were just like telegraphed in advance? And so like the next day I went and implemented that, and I was like, this is so fun. Like this adds like just a little, this adds like just enough tacticalness to it, because whether or not you or the enemy is doing a critical hit, that will affect like and change like what your moves are going to be done, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I have a critical hit. I think I can like do an insta kill at this point. Or, oh, there's one that's going to be done against me. I might want to actually defend or kill him fast or something of that nature, right? So with the mix in particular, I did a sort of deadpan Nintendo Direct style video introducing that system. And so, yeah, it is actually like really interesting, because if you have not seen that, that's on social media and a few other things like that. And it was in the Mixed Summer Showcase, you know, and it showed two battles that were the exact same battle, but one in which the player side had received a critical hit and the enemy side had received a critical hit, and like the effects and what happens changes, you know, drastically, you know, and it's just a random critical hit, right? But it affected the battle, even though it was the exact same setup, right? And I think that that adds like interesting tacticalness to an otherwise like, you know, classic system, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, especially with it being ATB, like it adds that
right. Yeah, and so that's the thing, is that we did an ATB based system just like the original Off. And again, it was, you know, we're still doing like bringing the game back to the original like concept and everything. So we're not doing anything like too terribly crazy. Speaking of which, the second thing that I'm particularly proud of is the combat speed system. So that's one of the options that you see right at the very beginning of the game. It'll ask you for your combat speed. And we kind of give you like three modes that were kind of vague, and they're kind of intentionally vague, because combat speed is not like easy, medium, hard. It's not slow, medium, fast. we called it patient, thoughtful, and unrelenting, right?
Mhm.
And so the reason for that is that the combat speed is really all about like how fast the combat runs and when turns are coming up and how fast animations play. And that came about as a joke because one of our playtesters was like, because the original game was only on the patient speed that we're right now, right?
Oh, okay.
And so the joke was one of our playtesters said, hey, combat is too slow. You need to speed this up. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to remove all the brakes on this and like just go nuts. All the animations are going to play right on top of each other, essentially. And you're not going to have a chance to read what anything is going on. I did that as a joke and I played it and I was like, oh, this is actually fun.
I was going to say, that's probably what I'm going to play on. I recommend everyone does that. If you're a true gamer, you have to play on Unrelenting.
Okay, I'm going to give you a hint, though. I'm going to give you a note, though. That's fine if you're a fan of the original and you're pretty familiar with the original bosses. However, the new bosses, they all have interesting mechanics associated with them. And if you are on the fastest speed, you might not catch what is happening, right? So you're still welcome to do so. It's just that a lot of the telegraphing is still there, but it's played on top of each other, and a lot of many different events are happening on top of each other. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you're doing the new bosses and you don't understand what's going on, check and see if you're on Unrelenting and lower the speed just so that you can see the more obvious telegraphs. But it's there for experts. It's there if you want to actually try and have like a hard version of it, because really like it doesn't change like the difficulty. There are no numbers changes. All the turns are played in order. Everything is like balanced exactly the same. The only difference is that you don't really get like a ton of telegraphs in advance. You get all of them, but they're all played on top of each other. So like, your chances to read them is slimmer.
Right. You need to enter the zone, enter a Zen state.
Yeah, it gives a good amount of replayability with that too. Like another added layer for replayability.
Yeah, you can play through on the normal patient or thoughtful speed and then go, yeah, I'm going to speed run on like unrelenting mode, right? And that works out pretty well too, because then you can just start mashing and start going into like, I'm going to pick this and pick that, right? So yeah, there's many different like options that are available to you. And, and like I said, that came about as a joke, right? It's really funny in game development how some of the really cool ideas we had, we're just like, I'm going to implement this because it's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. And like, there's a lot of times when you do like that sort of experimentation and it doesn't work out, but there's some experimentation where you do, and it's like, wow, that's actually kind of fun, right? Right. But the biggest catch is that like, unlike the critical hit system, we're like, oh, okay, everybody gets to do that. The combat speed was one that we wanted to add an option to, because that one, certainly some players would appreciate that, and then some players really, would appreciate having like the patient slot time to slow down and really digest what is going on.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the original game. I mean, as it is now, I do appreciate adding actual mechanics and things to do outside of just pressing Z mindlessly forever, because as much as I love RPGs, I would say my least favorite thing about them has always been the combat.
Yeah. And, for this, I will say that, again, we focused a lot on sort of what was in the original, certainly updated, certainly like, we believe that is something that is a much more superior it's just a sort of superior way of playing. But at the same time, it still is pretty close to the original. We still want you to get that same feel of the original and how it was played back then. Yes, it's certainly updated, but at the same time, it's like I said, it's not groundbreaking stuff that we're doing here, just because at the end of the day, with a remake, you have a lot of choices on like, do you want to do a whole bunch more new things and like kind of get away from that original feel, for better or worse, whatever it was, or kind of, celebrate and honor what was originally there.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's been our main goal, is to sort of maintain the spirit of the original. Like, if anyone talked to me at PAX, they've heard this spiel a ton of times. But yeah, maintaining the original spirit of OFF. And I feel like my experience playing OFF for the first time, combat was definitely the low watermark, where no shade against unproductive fun time. They were two college students trying their best, and I think they did a great job with what RPG Maker has to offer for combat. But really, I got through the game by just spamming my strongest attack until I got to the next save cube, and then all my resources were back. I'm playing through Expedition 33 in the evenings when I'm done with work, and that game just stacks layer after layer after layer after layer of mechanics in a way that all really jive well together. And I look forward to the combat. Like you said, the low part of RPGs is combat for you, and I agree for the most part. But Expedition 33 actually has me looking forward to the next, after I'm going through a little bit of story, I'm like, man, I hope there's a boss fight coming up soon. Like, I want to fight something. So, but that's a completely different monster. I think people play off for the vibe, for the story, for the world. Mortis Ghost is an incredible illustrator, and his monster designs and Pepper Steak, I think, is kind of the main reason why people played through combat in the original game. If Off just had Blue Goblin, Red Goblin, and just a very forgettable battle theme, I don't think a lot of people would have finished it, So if there was combat still. So the fact that all the music really drives combat, the enemies are interesting both visually and narratively. We wanted to have we have to keep combat in the game because, it's crucial. It's the holding glue that keeps the rest of the story together. But we didn't want combat to interfere with the rest. Like, we didn't want to slow down the game or become a chore. So I think Ryan and ZServe, our other programmer on combat, has done just an amazing job of making combat fresh, not boring, but also not intrusive.
It's never been a main draw of the game, but we want to make it we want to make it something that is at least okay, you have some more elements that are associated with it. So that's why we're adding, it's still a lot of the bosses still act and react the same, but we've added more animation and we've added more and as you've seen with some screenshots and video that we've shown on social media, for example, with Deeden, we've added a little clock to denote when he's going to be doing his super attack, and a few other sort of hints and animations. But at the same time, it's still the same Off that we want to have everybody nowadays experience, but just in a little more QOL friendly way, something that's not quite super grindy, something that has a really good it still feels like the original, but has you not going away feeling like you just did a really grindy boss.
Yeah, now it's broken free from the constraints of RPG Maker 2K3.
Exactly.
You can inject a little more fun into it.
Exactly. And that's one thing that you want to pay attention to, especially when we get to the new bosses. Because while the old bosses, we, focused a lot on making sure that you had a sort of an experience similar to the original. The new bosses, especially because we are free from RPG Maker, they have a much more complicated AI and a much more complicated set of mechanics, right? So we're looking forward to people playing those new bosses. Again, it's Off, so we still have the same party and the same skills and competences that the original party had. So it actually makes balance a little interesting because of the set of skills that each player has. For example, the batter is both your main DPS and the main healer if you don't have any items, right? So it's really interesting when you don't have, if you're going to do an actual combat design, you would want to have just, your holy trinity that you want to start with, which is your DPS, your support, and your tank, right? You don't really have that in Off because of how the different characters are. So making the new bosses and balancing around that has been certainly interesting. But I think we've struck a pretty good a pretty good interesting sort of things that can be done with the new system on the new bosses. Really excited for people to look forward to it. And if anything, it's just extra new content.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to purifying them day one. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
very exciting stuff. All right, and so going from that, I know you were talking about feedback from the demos and going out to conventions and everything. What would you say is the most kind of out of left field, bizarre piece of feedback you've received?
I know one. I have a bug report that's still open and I can't solve it. And I don't even know if it's still even occurring right now. And it's my favorite. Steam Deck wakes from sleep on its own while on the game over screen, not on any other screen. I can't figure that one out. The Steam Deck will automatically wake itself up, and it doesn't happen on any other thing. And I think I'm pretty certain it might be a Proton issue, but I just think that it's really like off, like that your Steam Deck will just suddenly turn on and only on the game over screen.
It's pretty ironic that on the screen where it plays a song called "Stay in Your Coma,"
that's what I was thinking.
It wakes up.
Yeah, it's resisting it actively.
We just need reverse psychology. Maybe we just need to change the song name, and that'll fix it.
Yeah, it's transferring vessels from the batter to the Steam Deck, perhaps.
Right? That's scary. Yeah, but I don't know. Like left field feedback. Boy, I should have thought of this before again on call. I know. Like this isn't not throwing shade on the person like who was complaining about this, but I know that there was one very vocal, maybe a couple vocal people who were really upset by the fact that the battle background image didn't line up with the UI for the text. Like it was still had some of the shading from the RPG Maker battle system, which I could see that being a pet peeve. But I noticed that the moment we released a very small post on social media showing, I think it was like some GIFs of some new thing we added in. I think it was like Dodon's clock or something. We were showing like, hey, we listened to your feedback and we added some new stuff. And that like the very first post was someone saying like, I see you fixed the battle background and like smiley face with the little inward pointing eyebrow. So like, that person, I was just like surprised to be like, man, this person was like at their keyboard ready, like waiting for that fix to come in.
I'm going to destroy these guys if they did not fix this glaring issue.
Yeah, so I just want to say to you, we heard you. Thank you. And we got you. It's fixed. So I'm glad I'm glad you saw that. I'm glad you appreciate it.
One thing I'll say about game development is that when you see a lot of like visual bugs that are be like, I'm going to, can be very quick fixes, and then I see a lot of stuff that's like, oh, this one bug will take a week. I'm the type of person to go, I want to take the one that takes a week to fix, right? And then one day I'll get there and go, okay, and I want to go through all of these 5-minute fixes and do all of that. Even though the ones that are like, oh, I'm going to fix like 50 tickets in a single day, right? And it's a lot of really small visual fixes, right? I always like to go and work on like the really hard stuff first and then start going to like the really easy stuff. So that's why you see, at least my development style, is that you'll see a lot of like visual errors in like early screenshots. And then as the game progresses, we'll start getting more and more into fit, finish, and polish, as opposed to critical errors that are causing problems. Right. So
yeah, exactly. Like it's a lot of triage. Especially coming up the launch like this, like adjusting the pixels, the vertical position of pixels on a piece of UI pales in comparison when you have something else that crashes the game. Right. So, we're just in like, it's kind of like eating your vegetables. Like I'm kind of like what Ryan says, where you'll spend time chewing on really hard issues and bugs that you're not looking forward to. They don't seem fun to inspect. They don't seem fun to fix, but you know that they're important. And so you spend time on that. And then when it's done, you're like, all right, now I can just simply drag and drop a ping into this file, just like replace this sprite, replace this soundtrack file, go into Photoshop, just move a few pixels. And one day, you can spend 1 week working on one bug. And then the next Monday, you take out 20 bugs in one day. So it's kind of that thing. You just kind of have to choose what's the most important at the time. And
exactly. And the one thing that's interesting is that since this is our first real major release, and we've worked with plenty of partners in the past that have not done major like marketing cycles, as opposed to Off, where we did that because we were intentionally like wanting to let people know that the remake exists and things like that, right? So as our first title, we are still learning. Like, okay, make sure that everything's nice, clean, and crisp when we start doing marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more important to have a fully functional game than to have everything looking nice and pretty for the first pass. Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that's good. When I said bizarre, I was a little piece of me was something like, did someone say something like really crazy? Like, come and be like, if this, anyways.
No, we actually haven't received anything that I can think of that's like, oh, something is either like extremely broken or like a weird like suggestion. I don't think we've ever received anything like that, or at least hasn't come up to me personally.
Okay, good. No screaming monkeys at the typewriter. I'm glad to hear
No,
that, guys.
nothing like that. Like, we've certainly received many feedback about the changes, but I haven't received like bizarre requests or anything like that.
Fantastic. Okay, good to know. All right, and last thing regarding Off, what exactly do you hope players to walk away with after finishing this new version of Off?
A lot like movies that were like how you would say classic for its time, and now everyone uses like bits and pieces from it. Off was the progenitor for a lot of tropes in the 2010s indie RPG. So somebody who's playing Off now might be like, oh, well, I've seen that before, right? But it was kind of like the first, especially in an indie RPG that was like a 2-person team that was working on it. That these were a lot of like, these were new of the time, and we're trying to, especially with our marketing, we're saying like, the inspiration to a lot of these titles, and we want people coming in and walking away with like, this is what really inspired a lot of these games that have gone on to sell millions and inspire others after that too, right? It's just one of those like, you feel like, oh yeah, I've seen like, this is a classic. Right. And that's what I want people to go away with. As an example that I always like to give is that Off was, of its era, the first title to be like kind of like the self-aware video game. Zachary makes the famous line, certainly within Zone 1, it was right there in the demo.
The characters are really starting to pile up.
Yeah, the characters are really starting to pile up, right? Starting to become a little self-aware. And it's not that self-aware was not a thing that existed. You had Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear 1, for example, right? So it's not like it wasn't something that was new at the time, but it was something that brought it to this genre that hadn't really like existed at a time. And now it's something that is like almost a meme in and of itself, right? And we want people to know like, hey, this is a classic. We want you to understand that like, this is what really like inspired all of that.
Yeah, I think I just want people to walk away with an appreciation for Mortis Ghost and just the just the influence he's had on the indie game scene in general. Like Ryan was saying, this is sort of, you could trace this. This is one of the grandfathers of modern indie game RPGs.
I've also told people a lot of people say like Undertale came from Earthbound, and I will say like Off is that missing link between Earthbound and Undertale, right? If you play Off, you'd be like, oh, and you played Off. If you haven't played Off, but you played Earthbound and you played Undertale, you'd be like, okay, this is kind of like where you can kind of see where the lineage comes from.
Yes, especially the whole concept of a vessel.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think just the opening the Deltarune, absolutely, like just it's like holding up a mirror to Off.
It's exuding Off.
Exactly. But let's see here. Yeah, I just think that like Mortis Ghost is one of the nicest and most humble people I think I've ever met. And even then, we haven't even met face to face. We just talked through Slack and stuff. But he's always just so supportive of ideas, and it's very clear that he just enjoys making things with friends, like likes making fun things with fun people. And I think there's like this famous story, or I say it's famous amongst the office anyway, but I don't know how many people actually know about it. It was one of my favorite things to talk about during PAX when talking to people, was that Mortis Ghost has never made a penny off of the game. Yeah. Like, I think the most time he benefited from the game was when he sold the original concept art. Like, he sold his high school sketch, like, notebooks that he had the original concepts in. And he sold that on eBay to pay for a broken toilet. So, like, he's just incredibly humble, very kind. And I think, the amount of influence he's had in the indie scene is just, he deserves recognition. And that's really what this whole project is for, is just making sure that this game, to play Off, you had to, back in 2012, when it was first translated into English, you needed to navigate French forums online. And then when you've downloaded the original game, you then needed to use a suspicious.exe file from some man named Quinn K, who you've never heard of, and patch it into English. And so the only way to really play the game was to know someone who had already done all that legwork, and just someone who could hand you a thumb drive and be like, hey, check out this creepy game I found online. So yeah, I'm thinking the greatest benefit that we can do for the game is just bringing it to modern audiences, making it more accessible. We've done that with the price point too. I think we announced that it's going to be selling in the US for $15.
And 15% launch discount. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I didn't know if that was like publicly known, but yeah, first week it'll be 15% off. But so yeah, we want to make it affordable. Like I'm lucky if I can spend $15 on lunch if I'm eating out. So I don't want to get into all that. The economy of game prices is a sticky wicket, so I don't want to get into that. But still, I think the pricing is fair. I think the price, and also the fact that this could be on Steam and Nintendo Switch, that it's just easier than ever to experience for the first time. And yeah, I've been having a lot of fun when we first announced the merch trailer, the merch teaser, where we had the 3 frames of the Red Room from the new area, like one of the new areas, and just seeing the fan base just explode, like, we're eating, we're so back. It was so wholesome watching this old fandom just sort of thaw and revive itself. And yeah, I'm just really happy to see the support, the excitement, and I'm anxious to see all the new content, all the new fan art, all the new theories. I'm just happy to see the fans rejoice and have welcome new players into their fold. And yeah, I think nothing but good things are going to come from it, I believe.
Anticipating a lot of Zachary cosplayers at PAX this year.
Yes.
My favorite, and this was before Off was announced. I caught someone at PAX doing a Zachary as the judge mask.
The cat mask? Yeah.
The cat mask. So I was like, ooh, you know that one. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Of course, now that it was known that the game was, the remake was happening at the time, we were just like, deep into production and not having really like announced the game. But yeah, when we did PAX East, we saw a lot of great Off cosplay because, we just announced like 2 weeks before that it's going to be there. So we saw a lot more Off cosplay just off of, our being there. So, looking forward to seeing a lot of that in upcoming shows.
A lot of ancient fans digging through their closet to get that baseball jersey out.
Yes.
Oh, we sell one. We sell one.
Yeah, we
met my hands on that.
Yeah, that's convenient. But yeah, met a lot of people at PAX that didn't even know we were going to be there. And just coming up like, no, I left my Off cosplay at home. I didn't know if I knew this was here. So yeah, when you're at the next gaming convention, if you ever see anyone in like head to toe monochromatic cosplay, chances are they're probably cosplaying Off. Say hi to them.
Yeah, at every show that I go to, I always see one banner, at least.
Perfect. All right, real quick, I know this is on the list, but I got to ask. When you first saw the batter sprite, did you think he had 2 eyes or he had 1 eye and a nose?
No, I can't say if I can, answer that question. Are you talking about the
original Off sprite?
On the overworld? It should have 2.
His little talk sprite.
Yeah.
The portrait. Yeah.
Oh, the portrait?
Yeah, you go first, Ryan.
Oh, I can't say for certain on this one. I'm gonna have to like take a look at that. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. For me, I always viewed it as like a very smug sort of like him kind of leaning back, his eyes closed, and just
that's what I thought too.
A horizontal slit for an eye, which again, I think Toby Fox. You can see that come out in a lot of the way he portrays humans in his games, but and then also a line for an eyebrow.
Yeah.
So that's how I've seen it. But I've also seen people have the theory that he's sort of more like a Hearthian from Outer Wilds, where it's 2 eyes stacked.
Yes, I've seen that too.
Yeah, I like that
black.
one. Yeah, exactly. I've also seen the top line being his eye and the bottom line being like the oil that you put on your cheekbone there during like, baseball to like keep your sweat from obstructing your vision, stuff like that.
He's a very serious man.
Yes, exactly. He never smiles. Thinking,
he's true to his cause.
Exactly.
Yeah, very admirable character.
Yeah, so I think that's for me. My personal canon is eye closed, eyebrow above. That's how I see it.
Okay, Shane.
I think it's whatever the fans want to see.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of like a Rorschach test, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or magic eye. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Oh, just magic eye.
So going from Off, now that you guys are in the home stretch final week leading up to it, what are you looking forward to actually doing when the game is released? Any games that you've been holding off on playing? I know you mentioned you've been able to get into Expedition 33. Was there anything else or anything for you, Ryan?
I did take some time off to play Death Stranding 2. Have to play that. I had to do that. But I'm looking forward to DK Bonanza. And then I have, like, for me personally, is like a giant list of like visual novels that have come out in the past like year, right? And just like, you know, and I'm the type of person to go, okay, I'm going to go through and play like a lot of those. And because like I've seen some really good ones come out in the past like year. So like, you know, and those are, you know, as a visual novel, it's reading, it's some time commitment. So you can't just like, you know, go and do that. So that's something that I have on the top of my head. Looking towards the future, though, two games that I'm looking forward to, and they were in the indie direct that came out the other day, is Mina the Hollower from the people who brought you Shovel Knight. You know, I had the demos out and I played the demo, and that's wonderful. Another game they want to keep an eye on is Neverway. I just went to Bit Summit and they had the demo available for anyone to play. And that one is excellent. So if you haven't had a chance, go check out Neverway. I believe they announced 2026. The concept is, of course, you leave. I want to get this correct. You leave your job to go work for a dead god.
Yeah, I could get into that. Absolutely. Nice. Yes. Real quick, speaking of visual novels, any chance you're playing AI the Somnium Files? Is that on your list?
That's on my list. I haven't had a chance to play it, right? Off has been, you know, going through. So that's one of the ones that are on my list.
Oh, yeah. I want to play it.
It's great.
I've seen a little bit of clips online, but then I think the thing that really made me want to play this is I recently saw an Awkward Zombie comic, which, are you familiar with Awkward Zombie?
Oh, yeah. I used to read her all the time in high school.
Yeah. My very top tab on my phone's web browser is her website, and I just refresh it every Monday. But one of her comics was just showing like two girls sitting at a cafe, and one of the girls is like, I had a dream that you and I were riding on a bike across the ocean. We got into a fight and I pushed you into the ocean and you got eaten by a whale. What do you think it means? Then all of a sudden, like, a cop just breaks through the window with handcuffs. He's like, it means you're under arrest. And I'm just like, what the hell is this game? So like
it's
I've
great.
read a lot. Yeah, so it seems really goofy, like just sort of Ace Attorney is obnoxious already. It just seems like it cranks it up to 11. So that's a good one. That's on my radar.
That's a Spike Chunsoft, right?
Yeah, it's Kotaro Uchikoshi 999.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so cool. That's definitely on my list. It's certainly something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, going through the two extremes of cop visual novels and going through 25th Ward and AI Somnium Files at the same time.
I'm at Act 3 of Expedition 33. I've been playing about 2 hours a night pretty regularly for the last couple weeks. So I think I'll be done with that soon. I might even beat it before Off is out. We'll see. I don't know. But after that, I am really excited to start a new playthrough of RimWorld. I picked up the expansion Odyssey, which I put a lot of my friends in, and that's kind of fun. Just updating them, to send my friend a text and just be like, hey, just letting you know you got your little toe bitten off by a rabid squirrel the other day in RimWorld. So just weird emergent storytelling that happens there. I was really big into Elden Ring Night Rain when it came out. Me and my partner, we just played that for hours and hours every night. We beat all the Night Lords, beat the game. And then they started releasing harder versions of the Night Lords. I think they call them like Everdark or something like that. Good. So yeah, we've been beating all those, and I think they started releasing new ones, and they also introduced 2-player mode. So if you ever want to get into Elden Ring Night Rain, but you're like, I have me and my road dog, but we don't want to play with a stranger, then like you don't have to do that anymore. So I'll probably dip back into that, check that out. But Death Stranding 2. Yeah. I am currently away from home right now, and I had to leave in a hurry, and I left my PlayStation 5 behind. So I was considering having one of my friends ship it to me. Like, hey, do you mind breaking into my house and getting that for me? But I don't know. I think I was I got Expedition 33 as a birthday gift. And I'm like, if I don't play this now, I'm never going to play it, and I'm going to feel horrible that I never played this birthday gift. So I've been playing that, and Expedition 33 has been great. Looking forward. So beating that, playing some RimWorld, and then Death Stranding too. I think when Off's done, I'm just going to sink into my couch and just get lost in that world for a long time.
Yeah, just succumb to your gaming urges. Perfect. Exactly what you should do. Exactly what everyone should do, really.
Yeah. Ryan, do you have any tips for me for like getting started?
On Death Stranding 2?
Yeah, anything you wish you knew when you got started?
Not really. That might be one of my issues, is that it's pretty easy to get into, even on the hardest difficulty.
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you about it
when you're finally done. I know.
Yeah.
I know somebody else that like we were making jokes about something that we were discussing, a manga that we were really enjoying, and I was just like, "Have you played Death Stranding 2?" And they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Well, I can't make this joke now," and I'm not avoiding spoilers entirely. Just what I've been waiting for a friend of mine to get to that point and be like, "Hey, you know what I was talking about."
So, remember that thing I talked about like 2 weeks ago?
Remember that thing I talked about? Yeah.
Now this really makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. And then, Jake, what are you still playing RuneScape mostly?
No, I mean, RuneScape, I'd be nice to play through Kingdom Hearts. Replay, like she never played them, so she's playing through those. And then I'm just sitting there watching that. Work's been crazy lately, so I haven't got to play a ton. So yeah, I still do the mobile or just RuneScape when I have a chance. But like, I also have Expedition 33 sitting on my shelf, and along with I have like 6 games that some I play with my partner and some I do not, and we've been using the wheel decide to pick which one we're gonna do next because we have too many on the list. So it's gonna either be Expedition 33, Metaphor, or Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
Good.
One of those.
Just rig it to play Final Fantasy 7 is what I recommend. Yeah.
Say what?
Rig it so you get Final Fantasy 7.
I've already played. We just finished Remake
those,
like before we started the last one landed on the Kingdom Hearts like full series playthrough. So we wanted to take a break between Rebirth and Remake, or Remake and Rebirth. So
yeah, all I've had time to play was Off before now, and then in my off time, I've been watching Joanna play Deltarune, and she's in chapter 3. So I'm like, oh, I guess someone has to do all the voices for Tenna. Guess I have to do that. What a drag that I have to do this. So that's been a lot of fun.
I think you'd make a great Tenna.
I think you're right. I agree. You know what? Can we
get a TV time?
Yeah. It's TV time.
That's a good one. That's a good
one.
God
damn, that's good. Yeah.
Just direct me straight to Toby. Right. And so what coming to the end here, what is the future for FANGAMER?
Well,
now that
of course, we're releasing new merchandise every Tuesday. So feel free to check out our website. We're always going to have new items available. As for our game studio, 150,000 wish list. It's already a success as it is. And, we haven't even, the game isn't out yet, but things are looking obviously pretty good. And so it means we're looking forward to game 2. What is it? We're still working. Honestly, we're still working on Off. We haven't had a chance to do really anything about it at all, other than the barest minimum of maybe getting a couple of pieces and parts just together so we can start maybe thinking about something. But for now, our focus, not just now, but even in the next couple of months after, is just Off and making sure that everything's as good on bug fixes, balance, that sort of thing. But you might see game 2 at some point in 5 years.
Right? I mean, I sent you guys that concept art. Have a little Off Mayonnaise Hole crossover for the final release on Steam. There there
we go.
Have the baseball bat. Perfect.
Yeah,
Guaranteed
knowing
sales.
Yeah, knowing Mortis, I'm sure he'd be down to clown. It's like, let's see here. This kind of goes back to one of your other questions about what do we think is one of the biggest achievements of the game? I think finishing it is a pretty big achievement. It has been a road to get here. So I think, the future of FANGAMER's game dev department was it always felt a little shaky. When I was first brought on the project, it was right after I had, we had released the Mayonnaise Hole demo on itch. And, I kind of had a little bit of an imposter syndrome where I felt like I was building the plane as I was flying it. I was still teaching myself C# and I was still cutting my teeth on game dev. So the fact that I was being brought onto a commercial product like that was just sort of a little scary. And with just all the sort of trials and tribulations that the game faced during development, the fact that we're a week away from launch now, I think, is just a miracle in and of itself. And like Ryan was saying, with the number of wish lists, you could all still prank us and no one buy it and really make us look like fools. But no, I think it's going to do pretty well. The champagne is still corked. We're waiting until we actually see the numbers. But I do think that the success of Off is going to open the doors to a lot more from us. Because, Fangamer is full of so many talented people. I'm looking forward to Ryan. Maybe you and I could work on this together, but coordinating some sort of a Fangamer game jam after Off is done.
There could be some stuff that's happening, but
yeah. But
as I've been hinting to other people, just so you know, the next one might be a new IP and not a remake.
Yeah. We're really excited about that, and but yeah, I guess another thing is one of the things I'm thinking of. I don't know when I'd ever have time for this, but if you've ever been to the Fangamer pop-up shop, we have a little tiny arcade game, an arcade cabinet set up where people can play Undertale. I would love to just put maybe 5 hours every week aside and make a side-scrolling beat 'em up a la River City Ransom or something, where we just have a lot of Fangamer IPs just as a brawler, just going through Tucson, Reed's been kidnapped or something like that, and just have this little tiny game that you can only play at the Fangamer pop-up store on this arcade setup. But yeah, we have so many talented people. We have writers, we have musicians, we have pixel artists, we have traditional artists, we have 3D artists. There's just so many elements that go into making games we've had under the Fangamer roof for so long, and it just makes me really happy that we're finally showing that this can be a viable new thing for Fangamer to get into. And I'm just really excited. The fact that the amount of support we've received and the success of the game just means we get to keep doing what we love and hopefully making some really neat stuff that you've never seen before.
Fantastic. And I will be buying the game day one. And anyone listening, if you really like what I've said so far, if you want to buy me the Bad Human Edition, DM me. I will send you my home address and we can work something out.
Those are slick, by the way.
They are. That's
the little it's a nice red obelisk to just have on your desk. I've had it on my desk for the last 3 years, so
nice
it
and
looks
ominous.
No, it looks so good. It has a nice velvety touch to it too that the pictures really don't do justice.
Yeah, I get that nice meat feeling.
Yeah,
really harnesses all 4 of the 5 elements.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we forgot to mention, if you do get the Bad Human Edition, you do have to refrigerate it after opening.
Yeah,
It will begin to smell.
it will go bad.
Yes.
All right, and then I think after that, all we got left is the community Q&A.
Thing I was curious
our
about that
beloved
I
community.
forgot to ask. I know we're about to wrap up. One thing I was
Go
curious
ahead.
about: how long did you guys get for development cycle?
So the development cycle has been in flux because we were doing some prototyping and then it was kind of on hold for a little while, and then we were working on something different, and then we had some changes in production. So it's hard to say. I can't give you an exact time frame just because of the many different times when the project was just okay, we were on the next step and it's on hold essentially.
Yeah.
So I can't really give you an exact specific time frame. It's part of the weird cursedness of this development cycle.
Yeah, and kind of correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I think you could trace back the beginning of this project to
yeah, you can trace it back to a certain time.
I was gonna say a trip to go get frozen yogurt, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
you can. That's one of the things you can trip it to.
Yeah,
so,
if you ever come visit Fangamer, we can point you to the Froyo restaurant where the Off remaster was conceived.
Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah,
but
when I
there was
fly down there to record my lines for part 5, I'll make a stop.
Sounds good. But yeah, you for a long time, Ryan, you were the sole developer on it, right?
Actually, so if you want to go into the first community question, we can talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Certainly. Yeah, from Lulu Pa, friend of the show. Is there anything you wish you knew at the start of this project that you now know?
So, fun fact, the Off Remake was originally going to be on a custom engine that I had built and even had parts of it running on the Switch. But we decided when we went to full production that Unity was the choice that was made. And so, is there something I wish I knew about this project that I know now? Don't use Unity as an emulator. We thought it was a good idea at the time because the team had experience with it. And there are advantages. And now that it's done, you can take advantage of it. So first class support on everything and a whole bunch of other stuff. But we thought we could hire like a Unity person for additional help, but everything we were doing was so custom that we were locked into the platform and on some weird custom stuff as well. So yeah, I don't recommend it. At the same time, now that we have something working, yeah, we're going to certainly take advantage of it. Don't do what I did.
Yeah, all untread ground, essentially. Very esoteric stuff. Doing some black magic with the Uni engine.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. From the One Buns. When coming back to Off after so long, was there anything you felt particularly excited by that you had forgotten or maybe not appreciate your first go around with the game?
So one thing I think that gets overlooked for Off is how varied all the puzzles are. There's ones based off of calendar pages. There's one based off of numbers in a book, a maze, a block puzzle, the chimney fall mini game. And as we were building the game, we say emulator, we can also say implementer, whatever you want to call it. We had to support a very large number of elements from the original game's engine just to do all the different pieces and parts that were used, right? So when you're playing through Off, right, there are some puzzles in there that are like, oh, this is reused. But at the same time, there are so many different varied elements within the game that I don't think that many people appreciate, because you just get like this one section that's like used once and that's it. And for RPG Maker, it's like, oh, you implemented it and that's it. But for a re-implementation, you have to actually like support all of that.
Mm.
Yeah, and Mortis Ghost uses a lot of built-in bugs of RPG Maker 2003 to pull off some of the weird things that happen in the game that, yeah, we had to emulate. We had to emulate the bugs as well. So that was
built-in
definitely
features.
Exactly. And there's some things like there's some puzzles like Ryan brought up puzzles. There's a puzzle near the end of the game where you have to navigate a rock from one end of an obstacle course to the other, and you have a 3x3 grid to walk on, and it kind of works like a touchpad on a laptop or something like that, where as you move around on the touchpad, it detects what direction you're coming from and it moves the rock that way. And you could just get through the puzzle's not hard. You could just move, like sort of like how you lift up your mouse off the mouse pad and then put it back down again to keep like scrolling past your boundaries. You're able to do that. You're able to step off of the touchpad to move, to reposition yourself to make the rock move however you want. But while looking at it, I realized that the way Mortis Ghost designed the puzzle was that if a barrier came up around the touchpad and wouldn't let you leave it until you solve the puzzle, there is a way to complete the puzzle without ever leaving the touchpad. And it makes it a lot harder and a lot more interesting. But I think that's kind of more of a personal challenge. Like one of our key tenets to the game was not making it harder, like it's already pretty weird, like opaque in some areas. Like almost everyone I've talked to says that they've had to get on GameFAQs to look up a walkthrough during their playthrough.
Oh yeah, I'll admit, I did have to brute force one of those block puzzles in the number pad blocks.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Seeing some of the thought that Mortis put behind, like analyzing the scripts and seeing, really looking in, you can kind of see the thought process that was going into some of these puzzles. And yeah, it's just such high effort for what was essentially just a joke project between a group of friends that just make each other laugh. So it's really impressive stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then next up, well, we've kind of covered most of this, but I guess the main question from Donnie Q is, what direction were the musicians given for the new soundtrack, if any?
I have to remember what Mortis gave them. I was more involved in the engineering of the project, so that was between the producer Mortis and the musicians. But my understanding is that Mortis gave them like, hey, kind of be close to the original, but you can also like start putting in your own like style into it, right? But don't quote me on that because I was not involved in that process. That was between the music producer and Mortis and the musicians.
Got it. So Mortis Ghost said, Toby, I want you to add bone trousel. This is a direct command.
Yeah. Well, I can't say for certain, but, it was certainly like the musicians were given more like, hey, this is going to be a remake. We need to remake the soundtrack. But at the same time, like, it's been 17 years, let's try something new. Mm-hmm. Or at least try something, fresh. Not necessarily new. Fresh would be a good way to describe it. Again, whether or not we made the mark or not, no release is perfect, for better or worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of going back to another question about like things we wish we knew when we started the project. I was going to say one of my answers would have been, and this feels kind of like a cheap answer, is I wish we knew we wouldn't be able to use the original soundtrack. But then again, that may have also caused a time paradox, because if ACC's music was off the table at day one, the project may have never even gone off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think maybe ignorance is bliss in that regard. So maybe it's better that we got started without knowing that, and we just what is it? Limitations is the mother of inspiration or innovation.
Like that.
Innovation, I think, is the word. Innovation. So yeah, I think sort of by having that handicap, by lacking those resources, we've had to compensate and come up with some pretty creative solutions. So, but let's see here. I also am afraid I wasn't part of the music production. I'm just sort of I was part of giving feedback during meetings and implementation into the game, but I unfortunately didn't have any real big say in like the direction of the music production. I know there was one point where I was working with someone else on the team, and they were racking their head on how to guide the music, and they were just listening to Gorillaz, and one song came on that like just had this track, and they just like stopped. They did like a slow turn at me, like, this is off. Like, this is like huge inspiration. Like, it was like one of their really early, maybe in their first album or something, but like, because I think Off was made in 2007. So this may have been from like, in 1999. I forget when their first album came out, but I think it was like right around the turn of the millennium. Yeah, I think Gorillaz was a big inspiration for a lot of the soundtrack. And but that wasn't, I can't say for sure that was what was passed on. Yeah, you know what? You might want to scrap everything I'm saying, because I'm just kind of talking out my ass here. Like, I'm not ACC.
Facts. I believe it.
I'm not ACC. And another coworker had like a moment where we sort of like were listening to music, and we both just kind of looked at each other and went, damn, this really feels like Off, doesn't it? So, but yeah, that's just sort of an anecdote. That's nothing to really like, don't quote me on any of this.
All right. And what's next? Then from Hunter, what was it like getting the RPG Maker assets to run on console? Was there any efforts to fork Easy RPG at any point, or was it always in-house?
Because we re-implemented everything in Unity, it was the rather boring basic process of using Unity tools to bring to console. As for Easy RPG, the only reference that we had used off of that was some of the like how to read some of the data files. But that's really it. It was like their documentation on how the data files were laid out or something like that. Otherwise, we didn't use or reference any of their code because it's GPL. So we rebuilt an entire clean room proprietary version of the engine for Off.
Right. Yeah. And I remember you guys mentioned when we were talking at the mix, I think that Mortis Go still sends all the stuff in RPG Maker 2K3, right?
Yeah. Yes. So there is some new content, and he made just the maps in 2K3, and we're like, okay, push button, boom, done. All right, that's easy.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite stories to tell people about, how we made or how we replicated the feel of RPG Maker in Unity is one of my very first jobs on the game was creating the logic that moves the parallax map in the background for the roller coaster scene. In the park, you ride down a roller coaster, and the way that scene is done is the batter is just sitting in the roller coaster cart while the background just flies past at a high speed while the batter's stationary. My job was creating the logic that moved that background. And in order to do that, I just used OBS, and I recorded the game at 60 frames per second in the original RPG Maker engine. And I just counted the frames, like, okay, one frame, it moved 2 pixels. This next frame, it moves 4 pixels at this speed. And it's meticulously like analyzing footage of RPG Maker and just one-to-one translating it into Unity scripts and logic and stuff like that. So
it's absolute authenticity.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It looks good running at 60 frames. And if you have the right monitor to go like 120, 300 hertz, it looks kind of uncanny sometimes, seeing things move around.
Yeah, because
144.
sometimes it still runs at the same like 60 FPS, and sometimes some things run at a smoother animation. We're working on that, and we're certainly trying to make sure that it still has that same RPG Maker feel, especially when it comes to the original overworld content. Our intention was really to make as little changes as possible.
Yeah, it looks good, too good sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the new stuff, I hope so. I want to see what Mortis is cooking up with his years of experience now. And Jake, do you have the question list pulled up? You want to take the last one from Human? I think you're muted, or your mic got unplugged somehow.
Did it?
Oh, now you're alive now.
Okay, weird.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Would Broly be able to finish off?
Mm-hmm.
Would Broly be able to finish
the strongest
off?
Saiyan? Yes,
the strongest Saiyan. I think if you don't mind hours of grinding, something that I think most Dragon Ball characters are not afraid of, I think you can go through and play the game and select attack on everything. You're going to have to be like max level, but I think you can like just select attack on everything eventually. Eventually.
Yeah. I think he'd have too much piss in his eyes. He can't beat it. No. I got to credit my partner Saber for that one. I enjoy Dragon Ball Z, but I sort of like the way I grew up with it was so fragmented that like I remember seeing parts of it where I'd be watching Dragon Ball Z and I think I'm following the story. Then I'd watch Dragon Ball on accident, not realizing. I'd be like, oh, he got turned into a kid. I thought I understood this. I thought I understood what's going on, but now there's Nazis here and stuff. I don't get it. So anyway, no. So yeah, unfortunately, like, it's funny, actually, I just talked with someone today about where do I start? Yeah, where would you guys recommend I start watching Dragon Ball?
This is actually one of the formative experiences for our whole friendship with Dragon Ball.
Absolutely.
I made Jake watch all of it from the beginning, and he loved it.
Yeah, I had also had experience growing up with the same issue, Jack. Like fragmented here and there. Same thing with Rurouni Kenshin, a couple other animes I had never really gotten into an anime growing up, like start to finish, because it just wasn't as, it was whatever's on Cartoon Network at night, whatever it was. And so I'm 30, so that's frame of reference. That was my
it's probably like Midnight Run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and whatever you caught on. And Nick that became friends over
at the time.
Final Fantasy VII, and then got me into anime more. I was telling him I really loved Rurouni Kenshin growing up, but I never got to experience it all. And I would talk about Dragon Ball as well, because I'd go to my friends and play, our other friend play Tenkaichi and stuff. And Nick was like, "Yeah, you should just start at the beginning." So I went through on all those, pirated sites, and
it's great, baby.
There was no other way to do it at the time. And honestly, looking back, I like Dragon Ball more than I actually enjoy Z, and I never watched Super, but yeah, like I think there's a special nostalgia to Dragon Ball that is just, it's not as
it's more whimsical.
over the top. It's got a
sense of adventure.
It's slow. You have to.
It's charming. It's got more like inter-character relationships and fun.
Is it slow because of filler or just slow because of pacing? Because
it's slow, and that's literally slow, and the characters aren't warping frame to frame all over the sky and punching the shit out of each other.
That too. It's old animation. It's before Toei really started investing in their animation, and also the development's a little slower, but I think that's part of the enjoyment of it. It's slower paced in that you get to see it doesn't skip like travel scenes, right? You're watching Goku go through all like traveling everywhere. There's 4 episodes
of every second of it.
If I remember correctly, but yeah, there's something special about how the fights don't go from just like, oh, it's the new form. It's actually like he gets a new skill or learns a new technique. I like that.
Okay. It's more about like, is it more about clever overcoming challenges?
Exactly.
Yes, thank you. Gotcha. That's what I was trying to
instead of just raw force and going blind.
It's not just like, oh, I unlocked this.
Just spending enough time in the hyperbolic time chamber.
100%.
A lot less screaming.
Yes.
More clever. Yes.
Yeah. If you were, if you grew up. Yeah, if you went to the public pool that I did when I was a kid back in like the mid 90s, there was just so many kids in the pool just going the whole time, just splashing water at each other.
Shame. That's how you do the key blast in real life.
Yeah,
Only
exactly.
way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
That's so awesome.
All right. Wow, great. Thanks to you, man. Great question. Really, really inspiring stuff.
Yeah, and thanks for the advice. So original
yeah.
Dragon Ball, that's your answer?
I think so.
Just start there? Okay,
Be
cool.
quizzing you next time I see you.
All right.
Okay, well, that's it's just about everything. Covered everything about Off, its history, Fangamer's past, present, future. Fantastic stuff, guys. So where can people find Off, Fangamer, everything you guys are all about?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you can always go to fangamer.com to go and purchase any of our merchandise. If you're in Europe, you can also go to fangamer.eu. And if you're in Japan, you can go to fangamer.jp. We have separate stores available all around the world. For Off, you can go to offtherpg.com or just type Off into Steam or Switch search and you'll be able to find us. And Fangamer has new products every week. This week, we started pre-orders for the UFO 50 physical for the Nintendo Switch, as was announced in the most recent Indie Direct.
Which includes a really detail-oriented companion piece book, which for anyone who's like a longtime fan of Fangamer, you know that like we put a lot of love into our handbooks. It's like we did the Mother Threes guide, the Earthbound handbook. And a lot of the key players from those handbooks are involved in the UFO 50 companion piece. So
as well as the
definitely check
developers
that out.
themselves. Too. Right. So it's not just, it was a collaboration.
Definitely.
And then as for me personally, if you really want to follow me, you can go to rowfish.net and that shows all of my social medias if you're interested in such a thing.
And for me, that's just jacko.com with a hyphen in between Jack and O. Right now, it just links to my Blue Sky, but one of these days when I'm not being completely lazy, I'll make a website, So yeah, watch that space.
Yeah, for me, it's rofish.net.
All right, perfect. So, follow both of them. Wishlist Off. I assume this episode will come out probably the day of or the day before release. So if you got time, either wishlist it, pick it up, go on Fangamer, buy out their entire stock from every single game. Buy me that Bad Human edition I mentioned before. We can talk about how to ship that to me if we're both at PAX. Just hand it over.
What are you going to do if you get like 80 in your inbox in the next week?
Thank you for purchasing 80 copies, by the way.
I'm going to go from I'm just going to see who's the least sketchy username or at least sketchy email address and just be like, yeah, here's my address. Just go here and then see if someone shows up with a metal bats dented and covered in blood, or if I get a copy of the game and roll the dice.
Yeah, if I see 80 copies go up on sale on eBay by a username Knickknacks, I'm going to be really suspicious.
Oh man, don't even worry about that. I have collection edition for games I don't even like still. I can't bear to get rid of any of this crap. I'm addicted to it. All right. But follow them, purchase Off, buy Off, enjoy Off, listen to the soundtrack, old and new. And go on fangamer.com. Get an Ace Attorney mouse pad or something. I don't know. They got something for you. If you're listening to this show, they got something for you. That's a proven fact.
We have everything from Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Undertale, Omori, Ace Attorney, Monster Hunter, what else? I think UFO 50, Stardew Valley. We have a lot of. If you've played any video game in the past 20 years, we have something for you.
Yeah, if you listen,
we don't
to
have
show,
Fortnite. I'm sorry.
You don't like any of those games?
Sorry.
I don't even know how you're here. I don't know why you're here, frankly. So there you go. That's been it. That's been Video Ditch. Thank you, Ryan, Jack, for coming on so much.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
For sure. And to everyone out there, keep on gaming in the free world.